For the sixth time in the Hersheys Cup Series, welcome everyone to Daytona as we get set for the Clash. Drivers that had pole positions in last year's Hersheys Cup Series season now bring it here to the 2.5 mile superspeedway for a non-points extravaganza to get our season started, the seventh season of the NNSCRA Hersheys Cup Series. 20 drivers entered in tonight's event out of 25 that were eligible. Those 20 had rides. Consists of, as I said, former pole sitters from last year as well as former Clash winners as well. Three of our five former Clash winners are in tonight's event. We'll see what they can do as so far we have had 5 Clashes at Daytona and 5 different winners. Will we see the first repeat Clash winner here tonight? Only time will tell at the end of 24 laps. Last year, he was known as the rookie sensation of domination, and one of his 4 wins that ties D Poteet for most in a single season came here at this very racetrack at Daytona, winning the summer night race. Benny Watson lines up on the pole position here this evening. Alongside of him, a former champion, the inaugural champion of the Hersheys Cup Series, and a driver that came into this race last year with 4 poles. That tied him with J Srigley for most poles last year at 4 apiece. And McCrury is going to be starting the outside of the front row. He is also one of our 3 former Clash winners here, winning this event back at the beginning of Season 3. So we've got a very interesting front row, but the other 18 cars behind them also with different stories as well. Some drivers coming off a career year in the Hersheys Cup Series last season. Some drivers had a lot of struggles and would love to start off this year a lot better than they did last year. Like I said, this is a non-points event, but a win in a non-points event like this could give you very good momentum heading into the Great American Race Daytona 500 later this week. Let's go get that command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Command is given. You can look down in the description below to see the starting grid for tonight's event. 20 drivers in total here this evening for 24 laps of racing. And don't get used to it, but you'll also see your starting grid on the bottom of the screen here as well, giving you the drivers that are in this field and the credentials they had to get into this event here tonight. Mention that there are 3 former Clash winners in this race. We already mentioned Anthony McCrury winning back in Season 3. You can also add to that list J Baskinger in the 38. He was the last driver to win the Clash back last year in Season 6. And the year before that, it was K Batson who went to victory lane, so his number 39 is in this field here tonight due to that as well. We mentioned that there were 25 drivers eligible to make it into the Clash, but only 20 had rides for this season. The other 5 that did not make it into the Clash but would have been eligible had they found a ride included K Batson, Leon Alvarez, Nathan Hudson, Joshua Sekuli, the last 2 I just mentioned, also former Clash winners, and of course the defending champion of this series, Brooke Allen, who is now down in the Pizza Deck Series. We'll see her in the Pizza Deck Series event later on this week. Talk about drivers that had a struggling year last year that would love to bounce back. You've got a number of them here in this field here tonight. J McCloud there in the 51. We haven't seen him in victory lane since season, I believe it was Season 4. Might have been Season 5, but I'm pretty sure it was Season 4. D Guilbert last year struggled. He was the only Michael Norman Motorsports car not to go to victory lane. You got Cody Smart back there, D Poteet. You also got Dylan Young up here, Emmanuel Hartnett. I mean, there's a lot of drivers in this field that did not have the year they were looking for last season and would love to be able to start off this year with a trip to victory lane. Would like to capture the first checkered flag of the season. A lot of speed weeks going to be going on here as we prepare ourselves for the Daytona 500, but we start things off here with the Clash at Daytona. And for the first time this season, it's been a not that long an off season, but long enough. I'm so glad to be back and commentating again in the Hersheys Cup Series. First time here in Season 7 I can say the green flag is in the air. Let's roll! I was wondering just how anxious they were going to be here at the start of this race. I think that gives you the answer. Track position seems to be everything for these drivers. And Emmanuel Hartnett, who started 3rd, trying to get past the front row all by his lonesome. He was able to get by McCrury, now trying to get by Benny Watson, but with nobody down there to help him, it's not exactly an easy task. See if anybody drops down with him now here into 3. McCrury and McCloud will do so, so that will leave Benny Watson without a drafting partner on the outside line. And it looks like Emmanuel Hartnett, owner of Fire Ice Racing, had to go from a 2 to a 1 car team this year. He will bring his National Guard Chevy Camaro across the line and lead the first lap of the season here in the Clash. McCrury slots to second. McCloud now side by side with Watson for third, who's done a pretty good job after getting caught on the high side of at least being able to battle side by side for the podium position, but now more drivers start to get into this battle. Trent Dunham in the Dodge. He's the only Dodge in the Clash here tonight. Dylan Young as well there in the 2, as well as the 4 of Daniel Guilbert, all starting to get in the mix. Also the 31 of Dylan Poteet, running a throwback to Ward Burton, who won the Daytona 500 back in 2002. So be interesting to see if Poteet can get Caterpillar in victory lane here later on this weekend in the 500 race. And now Emmanuel Hartnett out in front. We talk about this all the time. We come to super speedways. His goal now, control the track. Trouble! Whoa! Hartnett all of a sudden slowed right in front of the field, and we've got the big wreck here at the third lap of this race. Oh my goodness. I think Hartnett had some kind of a problem, and he was leading the race, and it was right in front of the field. He just came and slowed. I think it surprised him. He wasn't even able to have time to get out of the way. Caution flag is out for the first time tonight, and a lot of drivers were caught up in this one, as I apologize for the dogs barking in the background. Zachary Fitzwater, you see, is involved. Now, I'm not exactly certain that 20 car, the black smoke that's erupting from underneath his hood, if that wasn't before he even wrecked there with the rest of the field, I think that he had an engine blow or something. Dylan Poteet's involved, McCloud's involved, so the 2 Tweenix entries are badly damaged. There's Gallighan in the 44. Benjamin Miles, the 25. The caution is out. I don't think that we were under caution at the time. I think Hartnett was the reason for the caution. It almost looked like he had slowed as if he thought a caution was out, but I'm almost certain something mechanical happened, and there's only a few survivors that got through that one. Watson, Dylan Young, Gonzales, Batson, that's Baker, Baskinger, Srigley, and Sandfer that you can see there. There's a lot of drivers coming to pit road here. There's Hartnett. Tim Walsh is on pit lane. He was in it. Trent Dunham was involved. And I believe we're looking at the 61 of Anthony McCrury. Oh, man, Daniel Guilbert all crunched up on the front end of that race car. Look at how the car's... Boy, that just pushed the whole front end back into the radiator, into the engine. Looks like there might be some damage on Cody Smart's machine. Yeah, he's got at least right side damage. Looked like there might have been some front end damage as well. We could very well have whittled down our Clash field by 50% after this wreck, but we got to find out what happened, because that was so odd that Emmanuel Hartnett right at the front of the field appeared to lose power, definitely lost speed, and everybody just didn't have any time to react. Looks like these drivers will be coming to pit lane here, taking advantage of this caution, and as they do that, we'll take a look at a replay of what brought out the caution for the first time here tonight in the Clash. Well, I checked to make sure, and no, there were no caution lights on or anything. You can see right there, just above the field, that there's a caution light, and it is not yellow. Just watch you going into turn 1. All of a sudden, you can see visibly there's a huge decrease in speed by the 20. Now, there is no smoke. So I thought the smoke was from when he actually might have blown the engine. I don't know if he had a mechanical problem, if there was an electrical problem, but it was right there. He was stuck on the high side, and there's just nowhere for these guys to go. They come in full speed, not realizing the 20's got an issue. Trent Dunham into the back of Hartnett. There's McCrury. There's Poteet. Look at Dylan Young down there in the apron avoiding. Oh, McCloud tried to shoot the gap right there, and it closed up at the last minute. J Arndt did get a piece of it there in the 05. There's Guilbert in the 4. 59 of Fitzwater. And then everybody else just trying to get through. I think Sandfer might have gotten a little piece of that. I know Tim Walsh in the 15 was involved. There he is. He had already made contact with somebody else back there further and then slid up into Gallighan at full speed. Completely lost the brakes on that race car. And there's Benjamin Miles, nowhere to go either in the 25. Let's go back just a little bit and see who Walsh initially hit. Oh, it looked like it might have been McCrury in the 61. Yeah, McCrury, you can see right there, is drifting down the racetrack. And Walsh is down on the apron. He's committed, and there's just nowhere to go. He doesn't have any time to be able to turn back up. Rips the whole left front wheel well off of that race car and then straight up into the back of Sean Gallighan. And, you know, I went back and was listening to, and you can definitely hear that 20 car lost speed and something was wrong. As a matter of fact, why don't we actually show you guys that clip? Let's take the onboard with the 20 car, and you can hear that something really went wrong under the hood of that National Guard Chevrolet. Take a listen as we get down to turn 1. You can hear something definitely wrong underneath this car. So hard to try and diagnose just on the sound. I don't know if there was an electrical problem, if maybe, battery died, or if he lost a cylinder, or what. Whatever the case, you could definitely hear the engine. It was almost like a downshift sound, even though that car was still in 4th gear, so I don't understand what the issue was, but what a horrible place for it to happen, right at the front of the field while leading the race for Emmanuel Hartnett. Well, just like that, we've got a number of drivers out of the race after a bit of a freak incident taking place at the very front of the field back on lap 3. Benny Watson is the race leader. Keith Batson is in 2nd, 3rd place right now. Brandon Gonzales, 4th is Dylan Young, 5th J Baskinger, 6th is Cole Baker, 7th is Joseph Srigley, 8th place is Cody Smart, 9th is Charles Sandfer, and 10th is J Arndt. And that is what remains of the field. Half of our race cars that took the green to start this race will not even make it to lap 10, as out of the race include the cars of Daniel Guilbert, Emmanuel Hartnett, Zachary Fitzwater, Sean Gallighan, Dylan Poteet, J McCloud, Benjamin Miles, Tim Walsh, Trent Dunham, and Anthony McCrury. Tough break for all those drivers, obviously, who were wanting to start off the season as best as they could with a trip to victory lane. The good news for them, though, is there were no points on the line, so we'll have to basically, I guess, see what they're made of later on this week, as we'll have pole day qualifying, we'll have the Can-Am duels, and then, of course, the Daytona 500 to cap off this Daytona race weekend. So we're down to 10 drivers, and a few of them I know did get some damage from that wreck. Sandfer, Smart, and Arndt all got some damage in one way, shape, or form, but I don't know if it's enough damage to, take them out of the running for this win. And if you look as well, we've got 2 of our 3 Clash winners that are still in this race. Batson, who's right now out in front, and then you see that dark blue Red Bull Chevrolet back there of J Baskinger. So the odds are still there for a driver to become a repeat Clash winner, but a lot of other drivers here as well. You see Cole Baker there in the 18. Baker, formerly of Seth Cole Baker Motorsports for the past 3 seasons. Went to victory lane 3 times with that team. Now over with Fitzwater Australia Racing. And probably wanted to have the opportunity here in this race to be able to work with teammate Zachary Fitzwater, but that's not going to be the case. One of Baker's wins in his career was at Talladega, so he knows how to get around the super speedways, and looking very good right now here in that champion Chevrolet Camaro. Charles Sandfer slots into 2nd place there in the 03. Sandfer only 1 win last year, and that came at a endurance race, Baja Rally. Sandfer, though, ended up making it, I believe, into the final, or into the chase for the championship. He was the only representative, actually, for Retro Racing Enterprise to make it into the chase for the championship. Speaking of the chase, 3rd place, Dylan Young, had 2 wins early on last year, but was outside the top 30 in points by the time the regular season came to an end, and therefore was not eligible to make it into the playoffs. So a guy who was in the Final Four 2 seasons ago, definitely looking for some redemption this year, and looking good right now. This is a home track for Dylan Young, one of his 2 home tracks. He considers both Daytona and Chicagoland his home tracks, and so looking good right now is that Black Deuce, if you will, out of Young Motorsports. Jake Baskinger announcing that it's going to be his last year in the 38 for Flying Aces Racing. Baskinger was in the playoffs last year, was actually in the hunt for the championship in the Final Four last season. This season, though, will be his last year with the team, and Baskinger is 5 for 6 in getting into the playoffs, but he has never won a championship, so we'll see if maybe he can do it this year. Keith Batson last year, a bridesmaid so many times, I think it was 3 or 4 times he ended up finishing 2nd place, and a number of times outside of that finished in the 3rd position, finishing the podium so many times. He's still looking for his 2nd win of his career, his only win back in Season 5 at Kansas. And looking good here tonight, as mentioned, a former Clash winner, and also Another team like Fire Ice Racing that we mentioned that had to downsize. His teammate K Batson last year lost her charter, and so now KB Racing Enterprise is just a single car operation. K Batson taking part down in the Pizza X Series in the 22. Mentioned Anthony McCrury had 4 poles last year. The other driver that did as well was Joseph Srigley at poles at Las Vegas, DuQuoin, Madrid, and Michigan. That's quite a cornucopia of different tracks, some super speedways, some speedways, and a dirt track. The only thing was Srigley never found victory lane. He had a fast enough car to put on the pole position, but never was able to win a race. Srigley and Benny Watson right now working together, trying to catch up to the top 4, who are kind of breaking away. Actually, the top 5, I should say. The 0-3 of Charles Sandfer there as well. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be a win for Brandon Gonzales, J Arndt, or Cody Smart, but they'll finish out the clash with top 10s regardless. Gonzales there, the Nissan Maxima. Gonzales was in the playoffs last year after having a win at, I believe it was one of the dual races at Eldora. J Arndt was also a winner last season. Arndt was in the chase for the championship for, I believe it was the first time in his career. It was either the first or second. No, actually, I think he had a win at Kansas. Wait, was it win at Kansas last year? Might have been last year. Not 100% certain. I have to look over my notes. I know he made the playoffs last year, though. And Cody Smart, not up there with his teammate Dylan Young, but right now running in that 10th position. Cody Smart was a 3-time winner back in the Hersheys Cup Series non-charter system, back I think it was season 4. But still looking for his first official Hersheys Cup Series charter victory in his second full-time season with the Young Motorsports team. Cole Baker, for the moment, has been able to keep everyone at bay behind him. They seem more intent on battling for second than they do in working together to run down that Chevrolet out in front. Now they've gotten lined up with Batson, Young, Sandfer, and now Young makes the move to the inside on Keith Batson for second place. So yeah, nobody really working together at this current point in time to try and catch Cole Baker, and that's just allowing him to continue to hold the advantage between himself and second place, which now is a 3-wide battle with Sandfer on the bottom, Young in the middle, and Batson up top. I don't really understand this. I mean, I understand that it's, about 9.5 laps to go. It'll be 9 to go when we hit the line, so there's still some time, but wouldn't you rather be battling for the race lead rather than battling for second place? I would certainly think so. Now Dylan Young's got no friends as Sandfer, Batson, and Baskinger will all line up on the inside line. One thing that's going to be interesting too, I don't think we're running this same version daytime of Daytona, but obviously here tonight, that outside line is a much more preferred line out of turn 4. I don't know if you notice as they are on that inside line on the exit of 4 that it's like a bit of a dip down there. I don't really know exactly what to call it except a bit of a dip. Cars kind of bottom out, and that hurts their exit off of the corner. Sandfer starting to reel in Cole Baker. You saw Keith Batson take a look to the inside for second, couldn't get there, and now Dylan Young had momentum. He's going to get to the inside of Batson for third place. Baker with his brand new team trying to get them their first checkered flag of the season. Albeit a non-points win, but still, I mean, a lot of teams, a lot of drivers, when they go to new teams, the first thing they want to do is make an impression of, hey, you made a good choice in signing me, because I'm going to show you that I've got a race car and I've got the know-how to win races and maybe potentially win a championship. These drivers here tonight having a piece of cake. There were only 20 that took the green, and there were only 10 that are left. We're going to have 42 cars here come the Great American Race Daytona 500. A lot on the schedule here for Daytona Speed Weeks as well. We having the pole day qualifying tomorrow to set the front row for the Great American Race. And then that'll be followed by the Can-Am duels, setting spots 3 back through 42, the remainder of the starting grid for the Great American Race Daytona 500, as Batson now moves to second place. Now we've got the first race of the Tax Slayer Truck Series. I'm sorry, the Course Light Truck Series. I'm going to have to get myself in the habit of saying that, the new name there, new sponsorship. Then the Pizza Hut X Series, they'll have their first race of the season. Then we cap it all off with the Great American Race, Daytona 500. Of course, we've got a 4th series this season as well, with the Last of Us Light Series returning for a 2nd season, but we won't see their season opener at Daytona until after the Great American Race, as they'll be running their opener during the 2nd week of Hersheys Cup Series. Little by little, these guys, they are battling for 2nd, but they are starting to slowly reel in that 18 of Cole Baker. So they're not really losing a lot of momentum, but at the same time, they're not gaining a lot. I mean, you see right here, Baskinger's going to stay low with Dylan Young. Got Chevys on the bottom, Fords up top. I think Young's going to hang on to 2nd place going here into 3. There's about 2.5, 3 car length separation from these guys back to Cole Baker. And is someone pitting? Oh, they couldn't make it on fuel. Oh boy, the clash may come down to a fuel strategy race. Dylan Young has hit pit road. Now, is this a regularly scheduled stop is the question. Are these drivers short on fuel? Can they not make it the entire rest of the way? We went back green, I think it was on lap 7, which puts the fuel window about 13 to 15 laps, I would say, if indeed the 2-car was running dry. Unless he was short pitting, knowing these guys can't make it on fuel. And Cole Baker has led most of this race since we went back green, which means he's been using up a lot more fuel than all the other drivers behind him. So he might definitely be one that can't make it on fuel the entirety of the rest of the way. And he is coming to pit road, as are the rest of the other 3 drivers there, Baskinger, Batson, and Sandfer. Watson is in. And so too is Joseph Srigley. Looks like Cody Smart in the 12 already had made a pit stop. Probably either the same lap or a lap before his teammate Dylan Young. J Arndt, I believe, still has to make a pit stop. See if he dives to pit road this time. He does indeed. And I think Brandon Gonzales just made his stop, so he's down and away on the apron of turn 1. So Dylan Young, who short pitted on the rest of the other drivers in the top 5. Let's see where this cycles him around in that 2-car. He's coming off turn 4 now. And there's the race leaders coming off of pit road. Boy, it's going to be close for Dylan Young. I don't know if that strategy is going to get him the race lead or not. He just now hit the start-finish line, and the leader's already into turn 1. Dylan Young will definitely have a lot of momentum, but will it be enough to get him up and past that 18 of Cole Baker? I don't know. Let's look up on the top of our screen for that 2-car. And I don't see him. There he is. Boy, I think he'll just barely be able to get into 3rd place, but I don't think he's going to be able to get up there to Baker. Yeah, he's going to slot into 3rd place, will Dylan Young, but Baker's going to have the lead. Batson with a big run there in 2nd. He's going to close the gap up really quickly. Look at that. Keith Batson with a big run, and here comes Dylan Young. Oh, where's he going to go with that moment? He's got to find somewhere. He thought about the middle, but I don't think there was enough room, and with 3 laps to go, we got 3 cars up here now battling for the top spot. Batson, Baker, and Young. And Batson, with the help of his fellow Blue Oval driver, Dylan Young, he'll go to the race lead. Young to 2nd, and Baker, who dominated since we went back green, he now slides back to 3rd. Now here comes Dylan Young for the top position. It was a battle for 2nd most of this race. All of a sudden, it's turned into a battle for the lead, potentially the win when it matters most, with less than 3 to go. Dylan Young's going to take the spot. Dylan Young, of course, here ended up about a week ago taking the checkered flag in the Budweiser All-Pro Series Season 8.1 Daytona 500. So it's not like he doesn't know how to get around this racetrack. 2 laps to go. Young, Batson, Baker. I think those are the 3 that are going to have to settle it out, as Charles Sandfer in 4th and Baskinger in 5th. They have faded back. They'll leave this race with top 5s, but I don't think they'll be in the factor for the win. We saw that Batson was able to get a huge run on Cole Baker earlier. Now let's see if he's able to do the same against Dylan Young here with 1.5 laps remaining. Into turn 3. Dylan Young had about a 0.2, almost a 0.3 second advantage between himself and the 39. Both drivers using the low line out of turn 4. Let's see if the gap closes or increased as the white flag is displayed. One more lap to go here in the clash. Gap increased by a little bit, maybe by about 7/100ths. We'll see if Batson's got anything for Dylan Young here on the back straightaway. Dylan Young with the throttle down to the floor, trying to get this thing home. He did a short pit strategy against the rest of the top 5, and it may have been the move that's going to get him the victory here. Batson trying to close, but I don't visibly see that gap decreasing at all. As out of turn 4 for the final time, the 6th annual Hersheys Cup Series Clash at Daytona. We're going to have a new race winner. His name is Dylan Young, as he will take the checkered flag here tonight in front of his home crowd. A big shot in the arm for a driver who was a multi-win driver last year but failed to make the playoffs. He starts out the season with his first checkered flag here in the clash at Daytona, and might have very well just put himself in the forefront of a lot of crew chief's eyes of that might be the car to watch in the Great American Race Daytona 500. It's a Ford 1-2 finish too, when you think about the fact that Ford and Toyota are dwarfed this season by the number of Chevrolet Camaro teams. The fact that they were able to get a 1-2 finish here tonight in the clash, that might be a bit of a statement of, hey, we may be few in numbers, but we are definitely going to be a factor when it comes to taking checkered flags this season. Young with the win. Batson so close to being the first multi-time clash winner, but he'll have to settle for second place. Third place to Cole Baker, who dominated most of this clash before those pit stops at the end. Sandfer will settle for 4th, and completing your top 5 was J Baskinger. And the rest of your top 10 were the only other drivers to even finish out this race. Joseph Srigley in 6th, pole sitter Benny Watson 7th, Brandon Gonzales 8th, J Arndt 9th, and Cody Smart completing the top 10. An issue with then leader Emmanuel Hartnett brought out our first and only caution, caused a big wreck, and took half of our field out with only about 3 laps completed. And they were Daniel Gilbert, Emmanuel Hartnett, Zachary Fitzwater, Sean Gallighan, Dylan Poteet, J McCloud, Benjamin Miles, Tim Walch, Trent Dunham, and Anthony McCrury. But as I said, the good news for those drivers is this was a non-points event. Nothing was really on the line except for pride and purse. But now everything starts to get a little bit more important in terms of points-wise, because next up we've got pole day qualifying for the big event of the year. We basically have our finale to start off the season with the Great American Race. Pole day qualifying takes place tomorrow to be followed by the Can-Am duels to set the remainder of the field for the Daytona 500. Then we've got the Coors Light Truck Series season opener, Pizza Deck Series season opener, and cap it all off with the 7th annual running of the Hersheys Cup Series Great American Race. Thank you all for tuning tonight's clash. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We've shown you full finishing results, and we will see you guys tomorrow for pole day qualifying here at Daytona International Speedway, as you've been watching a production of the SRA Offline Racing at its best.